You know how your phone recognizes your face, like instantly? Or how AI can sometimes spot things in medical scans that a doctor might even miss? Well, the secret behind that magic is often something called an artificial neural network, or ANN for short. Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on these digital brains and really see what makes them tick. So, let's crack open the black box and take a look inside. Okay, so first things first, let's get our bearings. Where do neural networks actually fit into this whole AI world? Think of artificial intelligence as this huge, giant umbrella. Underneath that, you've got machine learning, which is all about getting computers to learn from data without us having to write code for every single little rule. And that's exactly where we find neural networks. They are an incredibly powerful way to get that learning done, and it's all inspired by the brain itself.
So what exactly is an ANN? This definition is from way back in 1989, but honestly, it still just nails it. The key things to grab onto here are simple, highly interconnected processing elements and their dynamic state response to external inputs. So, it's not one giant, super smart processor. It's more like a massive team of countless simple ones, all connected, that learn and change based on the information you give them. And where did we get such a brilliant idea?
While we looked in the mirror. That's right. The inspiration for the artificial neural network is the most complex and powerful computer we know of, period. The human brain. We literally based this revolutionary technology on the 3 pounds of matter sitting right between our own ears.
This right here, this is the blueprint, a single biological neuron. It's a specialized cell, right? It's the fundamental building block of our entire nervous system. Its job is to receive information, process it, and then pass it along. For decades now, scientists and engineers have been trying to copy its beautiful, elegant efficiency.
Let's do a quick breakdown. The dendrites, think of them like little antennas picking up signals. The cell body is kind of the central processor. It makes sense of all those signals. Then the axon, that's the cable that sends a new signal out. And the synapse, this is the really crucial part. It's like a volume knob that can turn a signal's strength up or down, deciding just how much influence one neuron has on the next one.
Now, why is this design so ridiculously powerful? It's all about scale. The average human brain has about 100 trillion of these synaptic connections. No, that's not a typo, 100 trillion little volume knobs, all constantly fine-tuning themselves. It's that sheer number of connections that gives the brain its unbelievable power. And here's where it gets kind of weird, a real paradox. A single signal traveling through one of your neurons is millions of times slower than electricity zipping through a computer chip. And yet, your brain can recognize a friend's face in a crowded room in just a fraction of a second. A task that, until pretty recently, would stump even the fastest supercomputers. So what does that tell us? It's not about raw speed. It's about the massive parallel power of the whole network working together.
So the big question is, how do we take this amazing biological design and actually turn it into code? How do we build a neuron out of math instead of, matter? Let's take a look at how we go from the natural to the artificial.
And this is what it looks like in the digital world. This is our artificial neuron. You can see, just like its biological cousin, it takes in multiple inputs, it does some math on them, and then it produces a single output. It's a simplified model for sure, but it's a really powerful mathematical mimic.
Now, here's how the information flows, and this is super interesting. First, you've got your inputs, just pieces of data. Each of those inputs gets multiplied by a weight. Remember that synaptic volume knob? This is the digital version. It tells the neuron how important that specific piece of info is. Then, all these weighted inputs get added up, and finally, that result is passed to something called an activation function. Think of it like a bouncer at a club. It looks at the total signal strength and decides, is this important enough to let through? If it is, boom, it becomes an output. And when you connect millions of these simple little decision makers together, they can solve unbelievably complex problems.
And this really highlights just how different this whole approach is from a traditional computer. I mean, your laptop, it's programmed. You give it explicit step-by-step instructions. A neural network, on the other hand, is trained. You give it examples, and it learns the patterns itself. And because its memory and processing are spread out all over the network, it's incredibly fault-tolerant. If one little neuron fails, the whole system doesn't crash, which is definitely not the case for a single error in a line of code. But, this technology didn't just pop up overnight. Its journey has been, well, pretty dramatic. It's full of huge breakthroughs, some crushing setbacks, and honestly, one of the biggest comeback stories in the history of science.
The basic idea has actually been around since the 1940s.
Early models, like something called the perceptron, showed a lot of promise. But then, in 1969, a famous critique exposed their biggest limitations, showing they couldn't even solve some pretty simple problems. This kicked off what everyone now calls the neural net winter. Funding dried up, research stalled. The big breakthrough didn't come into the mid-'80s with an algorithm called backpropagation. It's basically just a really smart way for the network to learn from its mistakes. And that is what sparked the rebirth. And that rebirth? It led to an absolute explosion. Today, artificial neural networks are not some experiment in a lab. They have quietly become one of the most important technologies of our time, working behind the scenes in just about every industry you can think of.
You can find them thousands of feet up in the air,
Powering aircraft autopilots, running these incredibly complex flight simulations, and managing control systems to make flying safer and more efficient than ever. They're basically the invisible co-pilot on thousands of flights every single day. They're also right there inside your bank's servers, deeply tied to your finances. In finance, they're analyzing these crazy complex patterns to evaluate credit applications, predict stock market trends, and screen mortgages, making financial decisions in seconds that used to take whole teams of people days to figure out. And in what might be one of their most important jobs, you can find them working side by side with doctors. They're analyzing medical scans to spot cancer cells with stunning accuracy. They're interpreting complicated EEG and ECG readouts, and they're helping researchers map out the pathways of diseases. They're giving us powerful new tools in the fight for our health. And of course, you can find them right here, in the palm of your hand. Yep, the reason your phone can recognize your face, understand your voice commands, and even compress photos without losing all the quality, it's all thanks to the power of tiny, super efficient neural networks running on that little chip in your pocket. So we kind of come full circle, don't we? We built this incredible digital tool that was inspired by the very wiring of our own minds. It's a technology that learns, that sees patterns, and that makes decisions. And that just leaves us with a really fascinating final thought. If our own biology could inspire this level of technology, what new ideas, what new discoveries, and what new understanding of ourselves will this technology now inspire in us?